Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another stream that is mainly for my ego and poverty. How's everybody doing out there? Everybody doing good? Staying sexy? You staying sexy out there, chat? Make sure you hit the like button, share it on your social media, and give me money. Yeah. Most of the audience is on the other stream. Yeah, I figured I wanted to try out this mobile thing and see, because I know some people watch their streams on their phones. So I wanted to see kind of how it functioned and all that. Give it kind of a chance to maybe bring in new people. Hi, Starlight. Hi, Migda. How you doing, man? Hope everybody's doing well. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Let's see here. We got Jay Blizza. How's it going? Okie, how's it going, man? Movie called Tiptoes. Is that the one with Gary Oldman? GI Samurai? That's a classic. I don't know if I own a copy of that. I'll have to check. My brother might have had a copy. He was a real big martial arts movie fan. Hey, Adabisi. Starlight, how you doing? Peter, how's it going? Plaid Namo, how you doing? There are two chats. Yeah, it's going to be difficult for me to keep a track of both of them. Actually, there's three because Rumble's running too. Why'd everyone test out the stream? I don't know. This seemed like something to do. Supposedly, it has some effect on the algorithm, but that sounds like a bunch of made-up nonsense. But I figured I'll give it a shot anyway. I have 7 followers on Rumble on this channel. That's amazing. All right, well, pinned at the top of the chat is the Streamlabs link, which I will check in between articles like usual. Otherwise, we've got quite a few articles stacked up, a lot of which are from kind of last week with some newer stuff. So we'll go through what we can here real quick and see what's going on in the world of pop culture. Been watching on our phones before, you crazy people. I know, dude. It's this whole thing is nuts. Yeah, if you're already on your desktop, just stay over there because I don't really understand the point of this vertical nonsense, but whatever. It is what it is. So yeah, that's what's going on. I was just on with Frosted Glass and Terry Diamandis and a couple other people watching Future Force. And it was a private thing we do on Sundays. But Future Force has David Carradine in it. And I've never seen somebody so blatantly out of shape outside of a Steven Seagal movie that was supposed to be an action star. And that dude just sauntered around with his gut hanging out. It was sad. Oh, thank you, Okie Native. Ego and poverty is how babies happen. So true. Or for most of Europe and East and West, potatoes caused babies. I believe that. That's why World War I had so many deaths. Strangely enough, that's true. More food, more babies for the poor. Well, we got to stop feeding poor people is the simple answer. Watch Tiptoes, it's better. Is that the Gary Oldman movie? Because I saw it had Gary Oldman, and that sparked my interest. I like Gary Oldman. But thank you for the tip there, Okie. And I'll check that movie out. Try and find a copy. Might take me a little while. Oh, it's Matthew McConaughey. Oh, okay. Well, let me look into that right now so I don't forget. Matthew McConaughey. I'm going to spell that wrong. Hey. Oh, man, I don't know how to spell anything today. Yeah, thank you, autocorrect. Comedy drama, Tiptoes, with Kate Beckinsale and Gary Oldman. That's what it looks like. Stop feeding the Filipinos. They keep popping out babies there. Yeah, but they're so pretty. That account's been hacked and it's a scam. Okay, I've been hearing that's been going around, and I don't trust Mr. Beast anyway, so I'm not signing up for anything. And I don't tend to click on links very often. I'm kind of lazy. So I'm not scam proof, but I'm pretty close. Just due to inherent laziness. If they bring the scam to me, that's a different story. It's hilarious, but in a good way. I'll check it out. I really like Death at a Funeral. That's one of my favorite movies. It's got Matthew McFadden in it and Peter Dinklage before Peter Dinklage got famous and arrogant. That is a great film. If you haven't seen it, watch the Matthew McFadden version, not the remake. The remake is somehow less funny, probably because Cedric the Entertainer's in it. And that guy's like kiss of death for movies. Yeah, let's check it out, though. Thanks for the tip, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, we'll definitely look into that. It's hard to find good movies anymore. All right, let's get into this. We'll start with the sad news, because that's usually how these things work. Louis Smalls Jr. died. He was a Vampirella artist, co-creator of Codename Knockout, which I wasn't real familiar with, but I had heard the name before. He was a 1990s artist. He passed away from a stroke following a long battle with cancer. He was a penciler best known for his work on Harris Comics' Vampirella, as well as a co-creator of the Vertigo series Codename Knockout. He's from New Jersey. We won't hold that against him. He did some really cool covers and good art. He went to New York, where he gave his portfolio to Neil Adams. And he was giving out harsh critique. And then Neil Adams said, "Do I intimidate you?" And he said, "No, I was in the army long enough." After looking over Small's portrait, Adams said, "I look forward to working with you." That's high praise, man. Neil Adams was notoriously cranky. So, yeah, he worked on a lot of the Vampirella stuff back then. So, another sad loss for the comic industry. I'll drop the article link if you want to read about it. Hey, Evolved, how you doing, man? I haven't seen Slow Horses. I've seen a lot of Gary Oldman stuff. Adebisi, it's shocking how much ego that man has. It is impressive. Hey, Resolute, how you doing? So drop this in the other one as well. Alrighty. Everybody's got one. So another sad loss for the comic industry and leaving us with more hacks. But something that actually hit me a little harder was a few days ago I found out the first live-action Spider-Man actor died. And he's one that most people forget about, especially if you weren't from the United States. Because he was on a subsidiary show of Sesame Street. And he never said a word. It was the Silent Spider-Man. And I loved that sketch, the sketches every time. Danny Segrin died at 81. And that's a bit of a shock, actually, because I never knew the guy's name. I don't think he was in any of the credits. This comes to us from CBR. From the Hollywood Reporter, Segrin passed away at age 81, confirmed by his family in the obituary reading. Born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota, until his entertainment career took him to New York City. And there he stayed until the sun and golf beckoned him to Grand Strand to enjoy his retirement years. Yeah, a lot of people leave for golf. I I would think getting out of New York City and avoiding rats would be more important. Guy Gilchrist also confirmed the news on Instagram. Which is really sad. That is not him there. That is Ed Sullivan. Seagren was a professional performer with a wide range of talents, including dancing, writing, acting, and producing, and puppeteering. He made a name for himself on the Electric Company, which he starred in from 1974 until the series came to a close in 1977. I loved the Electric Company as a kid. I probably saw every episode. During his time at the Electric Company, Seagren portrayed a silent version of the titular Marvel Comics hero in the series' reoccurring segment, Spidey's Super Stories. These segments saw Seagren in full costume, acting out various scenarios from within a comic book frame and going up against villains such as Dracula and the not-so-menacing Spoiler, who likes to ruin other people's attempts at having a good time. Seagren also found a home for himself on Sesame Street, where he filled out the legendary Carol Spinney as Big Bird, filled in for him on multiple occasions. Seagren's career as Big Bird went on to include major events where he appeared in full costume, such as parades and appearances on the Ed Sullivan Show. He went on to develop a whole host of puppet characters for other children's programming, with his works showing up everywhere from Captain Kangaroo, also a favorite of mine as a kid, to Miss Peach of the Kelly School. In fact, it was his love of puppets where Seagren's superhero started. He started working under Jim Henson's The Muppets prior to taking on the role of Spider-Man for the Electric Company. So if you've never seen those old Electric Company sketches, they're really, really creepy if you look at them as an adult. As a kid, I was like, oh, this is awesome. But the fact that Spider-Man never talks, super creepy. And they had some like really messed up, like there was a bunny suit, like an Easter bunny one that was really weirdly creepy. But yeah, that was a real surprise. I never knew that guy's name. I didn't really think about it for years. So it was a bit of a shock when I found out he died. Because when they said first live action Spider-Man, I knew right away who they were talking about. He created Man-Bat, so that gives Neil Adams a small pass. Yeah, I love Man-Bat too. Man-Bat was one of my favorite Batman characters because he's not a villain. He's just really messed up. All right, make sure that went through everywhere. Never watched Electric Company? Yeah, like I said, it was on in the 70s. I was a real little kid, but we saw the replays on our local PBS station. And I loved that show. It's so cheesy to look at now because it looks like YouTubers effectively these days could do better than that. But they had small setup and they did a lot with very little. Did you get your Deadpool Batman comic yet? I got the first one. I don't have the second one yet. I haven't been to the comic shop in a few weeks because I've had some, financial issues that I'm dealing with. But otherwise, I got the first one. Haven't read it yet. It's on the top of the stack. I did just finish Phantom issue 1 and Fantastic Four Gargoyles, which Fantastic Four Gargoyles is going to be a patron video. And I'm getting caught up on Red Sonja versus Army of Darkness. But before I get to issue 3 of that, Deadpool and Batman are on top of the stack. So I will be reading it very soon, probably the next day or so. No, not Nick Hammond. It was Danny Seagren. First Spider-Man were Nick Hammond and Amazing Friends. I loved Amazing Friends as a kid, too. That was a great one. Oh, thank you, Hassan. If she's old enough to meow, she's old enough to eat. Oh, Jesus. Hassan's a really weird dude, man. All right. So yeah, I'm going to be reading that. That Deadpool Batman is actually fairly long. I was surprised. Electric Company is June. Angela was the hot Asian. Morgan Freeman was Dracula. Morgan Freeman was also Easy Reader. Hey, Unacceptable. How's it going? Vaguely remember the Electric Company. I think it made a memorable song. That's a vague impression. Yeah, it's like 3-2-1 Contact. You know, there was a lot of that 70s stuff that was really, really catchy, but is kind of lost to history. And it's really dated now by today's standards, but I watched a lot of that stuff as a kid. I was a latchkey kid, so we were like at grandma's house a lot, and she was, you know, an older woman's, and my grandfather would put up a certain amounts of that crap before trying to get me to not watch Masters of the Universe so he could watch the Waltons. But we got to watch all kinds of shows over at my grandma's house because she could get channels out of Detroit. So we got to watch like Chopsocky Theater, and they had this bad movie channel where I developed my love of 70s and 80s horror because they would show all these low budget movies, like all the Abbott and Costello stuff, all the way up through Hammer Films and a bunch of Italian films, and pretty much anything low budget from the 50s, I mean, sometimes even the 40s through the late 70s. And then in the 80s, I was renting movies by then. So, but that got me interested in a lot of the like cheesy Dracula films and stuff like that. And of course, Ultraman and Johnny Sacco and his flying robot and all the other really cool import stuff. Oh, the 80s cartoons were great. 70s, I'm pretty sure my mom was still in high school then. Yeah, the 80s had awesome cartoons. Even the obscure ones like Jason the Wheeled Warriors, they were way more entertaining than a lot of the slop now. Evan Costello kind of ruined me because when they did like the Meet the Monsters movies, they ruined me on the idea that everywhere I went would have secret doorways. So I was always looking for secret panels as a kid because there were always secret doors and secret trap doors that would allow you to fall in, and quicksand. Cartoons had quicksand all over the place. My childhood led me to believe that quicksand would be like a fairly regular occurrence for adults, and I've not seen quicksand more than like once in my life, and then it was mildly disappointing because it was from a distance and nobody was in it. Push us out for the subs. My grandma only liked to watch Days of Our Lives in Santa Barbara, so that was at like 1 and 3. So we got the TV pretty much any other time other than that. But we mostly went over after school and on weekends. And on weekends, they'd play like Ultraman and all these awesome movies. So I got to see a lot of cheesy films back in the day. And all those 70s and 60s martial arts films out of China and the Sonny Chiba stuff. We got to watch all of that. I think that's where my brother really developed his love of martial arts films. Ridiculous video on Mizuki. Did not realize what a Bella and the Man is. I haven't seen that one yet. I've heard that Willie Mack had one too. I missed that. I'm not caught up on all my streaming. Pop's can of light cola. Hell yeah. Hey, Lindsay. Not to mention the theme music of the 80s and 90s cartoons. Defender of the Earth slapped. Yes. Defenders of the Earth, G.I. Joe, very memorable. Thundercats, even Masters of the Universe. But the best theme song from the 80s, I maintain, is Knight Rider. That's one of the all-time greatest TV themes because it's so catchy. Troll 2 got a 4K release? Oh my God, I got to get that. I got to get a 4K TV. Like, share, subscribe, and donate. My brother got stuck in a lime dump. Oh my. Yeah, Troll 2, I'm sorry, that is not the worst movie I've ever seen. Like, Robot Monster is so much worse. Thank you again, Okie Native. No funny comments, so here's half of a mediocre comic if you're lucky. Comics have gotten so bad, I've gone back to Magic the Gathering, Magic card collecting, and Lego. Oh, damn, dude. There are some good ones. A lot of the independent stuff is doing way better. The licensed stuff like Thundercats is good. The Phantom was shockingly impressive. Speed Racer, I'm not too keen on that one so far. Racer X looks like it might be better. But the Space Ghost stuff is really good. Just read Blue Falcon and Dynamite #1. Spoiler alert. Really enjoyed it, but it's real downer ending in the first issue because it's the origin of Dynamite. Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers. That sounds familiar. I wanted to watch Captain Power, but it was on at the same time as some other show I was watching at the time. So I only ever got to see like one episode. And of course, I loved Photon. The chick in that was so 80s hot, even though you never saw all of her face. But it had like early green screen effects, and it looked like it had like a $50 budget. And it was made in conjunction with some Japanese company. So it was super awesome. Centurions, nice. Troll 2 has way too many memorable lines to be bad. Come on, are we forced to kill you violently? Yes. That movie is unintentionally one of the greatest comedies in history, I think. But it's like Freaks. It gets a bad rap because a couple people didn't like it. And everybody's like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. It's like The Room isn't even the most boring movie I've ever seen. That winner is so far Demon Under Glass. Which I have to review because I finally found my copy. Little side news, the house that we're selling, because we're forced to pay the lawyers, got a little bit pilfered. So a couple boxes of DVDs appear to be missing. So I'm trying to go through everything to find out if I have to repurchase about 100 DVDs. I did find my copy of Yokai Watch, the movie, though. That was good. I haven't found the TV series yet because I own that. Japan's an interesting country. Lowell, as a Canadian, I feel so anyways. Here is pretty boring. Well, you have too much snow in Canada. Freaked is criminally underrated. Yeah. There's a lot of movies that are really underrated for quality. A lot of the old black and white stuff is shockingly pretty entertaining. A lot of it's stupid, bad entertaining, like the old drive-in stuff, but some of them are actually pretty fun. We had a lot of the 80s and 90s cartoons play at like midnight down here in the early 2000s, and I didn't really have a bedtime. Oh, nice. When I was in high school, I became a total insomniac. So I was up all night, mostly trying to watch the like Cinemax without paying for it, so you got to see all the lines through it and look for boobies. But I'd end up watching all these like late night movies they'd put on, and some of them were really fun, like Pray for the Wildcats, which was I think Andy Griffith and William Shatner, and of course Gleaming the Cube was on a couple times. They played all sorts of weird movies. Laser Blast, we saw that at the drive-in too, so I knew what movie that was. But Laser Mission later on. So there were a lot of really good TV shows and movies that got played late at night. Forever Night, Friday the 13th, the series. There was a show called Two, which was about a guy that didn't know he had a twin that framed him for murder. And it was all about his hunt to find him. It was a pretty fun show. I forget the guy's name that was on it. Laser Blast. Yeah, I saw that in the theater with Blue Thunder. It was a drive-in movie my parents took us to. Dad wanted to see Blue Thunder. And we got to sit through Laser Blast first, and we liked that one better because it wasn't, an adult movie. It was goofy sci-fi fun. Drive-ins were never a thing in the UK. I'm really shocked by that, actually, because you guys have smaller cars. You could fit tons of people in there. If you ever come to the States, though, definitely look up a drive-in. There's still a few around. And it's worth the experience to do it at least once because you get to stay comfortable and talk through the movie if you want to and not really bothering anyone unless you're loud. The descrambled box. Oh, nice. My dad was too honest for that. I'd like to visit the States. Yeah, it's huge. Pick a destination and go, man. It's worth it. We're a crazy big country. Never been to a drive-in theater. Yeah, you should find one, Frosted. You might have to like go further out because where you're at in the country, there's probably not too many of them. But you hit the Midwest, and there's like a weird subculture of those things kind of sprinkled throughout the country. We've got like 4 or 5 of them here in Ohio. I'm on my old computer at the moment. I have like 20 samurai flicks you liberated from the high seas. Some are very rare. A lot of those are really hard to find, even on VHS. I have like 4 VCRs that I inherited, plus the one I already had. And I think 3 of them work. So I'm going to try and find my VHS tapes. I found a bunch of them. I found Puma Man and what was the other one? Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. And a couple of Kathy Ireland movies, stuff like that. So I've got like 1 or 2 boxes of them laying around. But I know I have more. So I'm excited to track those down and rewatch them because I used to have a really big VCR collection or VHS collection. I had a bunch of Doctor Who DVDs or VHS, and those got stolen from me years ago. But I had a bunch of Hammer horror stuff. I had all kinds of crazy stuff. We had this really awesome video rental store too, up until early 2000s. In my hometown area. And every time I was back there, I'd rent movies because it was rent 10, get the 11th one free. And they were always doing dollar sales. But they had some of the most obscure stuff from like Necromantic to Shatterdead to the erotic adventures of the Three Musketeers. So you were looking at like a broad sweep of stuff. And people would go in there and ask for like some recent big budget movie. And the staff would just laugh at them. They're like, we have 2 copies of that. Can we interest you in this obscure, artsy Seventh Seal movie? He flies like a moron. He does fly like a moron. I'm not allowed to say that, Jay Blizza, because terms of service. Alien from L.A. I'm pretty sure that sounds familiar. Saw Pet Sematary at the drive-in. The original one was fun. The subsequent ones, not so much. 11 Rebels, 11 Samurai, Bushido, Fall of Eiko Castle, Ichi Samurai, Shogun Samurai. Yeah, that's wow. Flesh Gordon, yeah. Flesh Gordon and the Cosmic Cheerleaders. I've got a copy of both of those. I actually have Flesh Gordon 2 on VHS somewhere. You watched Pet Sematary in English class? Wow. You could get away with that today. Oh, stupid TOS. Yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful with that. They're cracking down pretty hard. A lot of people have lost channels. Alien from LA is Kathy Ireland. Oh, okay. Thought that sounded familiar. I have some of her action movies. I don't know if I have any of her sci-fi stuff. Yeah, Pet Sematary was a very effective movie. And I always maintain Stephen King movies are always better than his books. The books have more detail, but they tend to meander around. Like his books would be 150 pages if you took out all the extraneous characters whose subplots go nowhere and tightened up the focus of the book a little bit. He desperately needed to be off cocaine. But the movies are always way better for me because I think other people take the good idea that he had and make it visionary, like The Shining. The TV movie version was okay, but it wasn't Kubrick. The Kubrick version was better. Although if you watch Dr. Sleep, they kind of combine the two into a unified thing. And that's actually a shockingly good movie. The parents weren't happy, I imagine. I don't know if anyone else would know, but we watched another in high school. It's an anime horror movie. Not that familiar. I've only seen a handful of animes over my time. Riding Bean, that was okay. Akira, which I didn't like. I know I'm heretical for saying that. They Were 11 was really good. And I saw this, what was the other one? Like a Captain Harlock movie or something like that. And some of the Evangelion stuff I've seen over the years. You watched Storm of the Century in school? Well, it's better than The Day After Tomorrow. That movie sucked. Storm of the Century, if I remember, was okay. Langoliers was okay too. The TV movie, I really liked. A lot of people say it doesn't hold up, but I disagree. Fist of the North Star. I don't think I've seen that one. I did see. I have a copy of. What's the name of it? It was based on an anime about this guy that went to prison and he's got to fight all these like stereotypical anime characters. It's like Rui or something like that. Story of Ricky O. That's what it was. Live action craziness. I highly recommend it. It is disturbingly weird. There's a lot of weird deaths that are over the top. And it was done in like the late 80s, early 90s. So all the practical effects are kind of silly looking. But if you haven't seen that, the story of Ricky O is amazing. And it's, I think, OH, not just the letter O. I hated Day After Tomorrow. They're running from climate change. Anime is weird. Sometimes has deep emotional impact. There's live action Grave of the Fireflies that is hilariously bad. Ooh, I'll have to look that one up. But school kids dying. The most memorable was a girl falling eye first onto the tip of an umbrella. Jesus. That sounds like some Final Destination shit. Land That Time Forgot, about a submarine crew that stumbles across something akin to the Jurassic Park. Oh, they've done a couple movies like that. They're kind of loosely based off of that old Conan Doyle book. Yeah, those are always great concepts because humans are very fragile creatures when it comes to fighting dinosaurs. Same as Roland Emmerich movies. Yeah, Roland Emmerich. If you want to watch a really bad, painful movie, X versus Sever, Ballistic, I think the title, Ballistic, X versus Sever. It's got Antonio Banderas and Lucy Liu doing some of the worst acting I've ever seen with a script that makes almost no sense. Like it borderlines Ultraviolet for not making any damn sense. And it seems like the script may have been translated from another language into English and they just lost a few random pages. And that would explain a lot about the film. But apparently that's not the case. They just made a shit movie in both cases. And I feel bad for, like, in Ultraviolet, Mila Jovovich is smoking hot as always, and she couldn't save the movie. The movie was just stupid. All right, I should probably get into another article here. We're going to be here all night. Present screen. This was interesting. From the Hollywood Reporter, look up in the attic. It's a multi-million-dollar comic. Three brothers in North California found a copy of Superman #1. They forced themselves to clear out their late mother's house this year. They expected dust, heartbreak, and a full day of hauling junk. What they didn't expect was Superman. In the attic, in a box of yellowed newspaper clippings, they found something the family had heard about for years but never actually had seen. Their mother's long-rumored comic book collection. Among it, astonishingly intact after 86 years, was a copy of Superman #1. It wasn't like we said, let's go find that comic. The youngest, 57, says it was more, let's get that dumpster and fill it up. That sounds like my brother. He did that a few times. Even more incredible, the comic they found was nearly pristine, a 9.0, making it the highest quality copy known to exist. Early bidding at Heritage has hit $5 million, putting it within striking distance of the record of any comic book sold, $6 million. How the comic got there goes back a few decades to Depression-era San Francisco, where their mother, then 9, and her teenage brother scraped together enough change to buy a few comics off a newsstand, including the first Superman. They read them endlessly and kept them in good enough shape And over the years, she'd occasionally insist that she had rare comics somewhere, but she never could remember where, and the boys assumed it was just a family legend. She died just before the pandemic, and the house sat untouched until the brothers were ready to go through it, and suddenly the legend was real. They could have been millionaires a lot sooner if they'd bothered to get around to it. Now, I know you're thinking, like, well, how does this story end, Jack? Well, that's just wait for the next article. Because Most Valuable Comic Book sells for a record $9 million for something you found in the attic. I immediately went to the attic here, and the only thing I found was mouse turds and a naganada. Yeah, my brother had one. So, yeah, that's about all I found up there, and part of a Christmas tree, but I knew that was up there. Copy of Superman #1 sold for $9.12 million Thursday at an auction run by Heritage. That price handily beats the previous record set only in 2024 when Action Comics #1 sold for $6 million. Before that, the record was $5.3 million in 2022. And prior to that, it was Amazing Fantasy #15 for Spirits of Spider-Man for $3.6 million in 2021. But remember, this one was the best condition known. 9.0. You can't buy comic books off the rack for that. So it was a 9 out of 10 by CGC. There is still an attic backstory, which enhances the comic's pedigree. So yeah, those guys are going to be sitting pretty good for a while. There's some staining up here, but that's to be expected. But that does look beautiful. I bought a reprint of this at the comic shop a while back. They had a facsimile edition that was the same size because Golden Age comics are a little bigger than your regular comic books because they shrink as time goes by. But these 64-page comics for 10 cents, amazing what you got in there. There's like 10 stories. And they're all short, of course, but you get a lot of stuff jammed in there, and they didn't mess around with shitty storylines like you get now. Dude, I need an attic, right? You need to find somebody that's old that has an attic full of cool stuff. Cool swords are always a good investment. Yeah, he had a couple of swords and a bunch of other cool stuff. They died over splitting the money. That one surprised me. I don't know, Platinum Ammo. I don't know if that's an actual job, so I don't know how much trouble you could get into for that. What comic do you think would be the most valuable if you found one in mint condition? Probably Superman #1, or followed by Amazing Fantasy #1. I'm sorry, Amazing Fantasy 15 and Detective Comics 27 would be competing for each other. It kind of varies, but yeah, if I found a Superman #1 or an Action Comics, I'd be extremely happy. That would I would probably openly weep, not on the comic because I have decorum. Yeah, you'll notice that there's a different name dropping links on Rumble. Just ignore that. All right, let's go over to The Beat. The beat is on. Some more comic news here. Dynamite signs with Universal for distribution in the U.S. So they signed a non-exclusive distribution agreement. This is largely a nothing burger because it's for the U.S. and Canada markets. But Universal, which mainly distributes in Canada from what I could tell, I think they do some stuff here, but they're still going to be working with Lunar. And DC signed on to distribute with them as well. So it's just another distribution network for comic shops. So if you hear this, don't worry about it. So just to pass that along. Thought it was noteworthy. But I have a new crossover that I'm excited about that is almost up there with Archie meets the Punisher or Archie meets Predator. And it's kind of in that same vein. So I'm looking forward to Deadites in Riverdale as Archie is crossing over with the Army of Darkness. Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be a real thing, guys. Per a press release from Dynamite Entertainment, fans finally get the first look at the all horror and humor to come in Archie X The Army of Darkness #1. Set to be released in February, it will find Riverdale overrun with all manner of Deadite horrors, all while the man himself, Ashley J. Williams, does whatever it takes to send them all back to hell. Readers can check out several crossovers for the series' first issue from Army of Darkness vs. Reanimator, Necronomicon Rising, writer Eric Burnham, and longtime Archie artist Bill Galvin. I read Army of Darkness vs. Reanimator, Necronomicon Rising a while back, and I was just finishing the first issue review for it when I saw this news, so it was kind of interesting timing. And that book is really good, so I am excited about this because that one had a really good story. And this cover sold me on it. So an Archie comic crossing over with Dynamite should be a pretty good time. They've done some others over the years, but this one actually looked almost as fun as the Punisher one. Yeah, that's actually the second one. They ignored the first crossover they did with Army of Darkness versus Reanimator. But Army of Darkness versus Reanimator Necronomicon Rising was surprisingly good. And if I remember correctly, Freddy versus Jason versus Army of Darkness was really good too. I have that. I've got to reread it because I haven't read it in like a decade. And they're really hard to find. And I pulled them out of dollar bins. I was missing issue 3, which I found for $7 on eBay like 3 years ago. But the average price is generally around 10 to 20 bucks for those. And at the time, it was even higher because I got it during the end of the pandemic when everybody was paying ridiculous amounts of stuff. Oh, sorry, man. Have a good nap. You can watch your replay, gang, anyway. So I'll drop the links in the chats so you can just replay the chat and get everything that way. And if you're on Rumble, the links will be pinned in the description. Speaking of hard to find, snagged a copy Hunter in the Dark for $25. Wow. Nice. Yeah, there's a handful of books I always keep an eye out for. Ever since I got Hulk 180 and 181 for $0.25 a piece as a kid. So I kind of keep an eye out for certain books, but like the Silver Bridge or Visitors from Lanalos, I've sold a couple copies of those that I bought at flea markets for like $5 and got $300 a piece out of them. Oh, eBay is great for DVDs, especially new ones. If you want to, like, I bought a big lot of new DVDs for $40. And there was like good movies in there. I gave my sister like 7 or 8 movies that I didn't want because they actually sent me like a few extras to pad out the box. But yeah, there's 100 DVDs and probably 150 movies because there's a bunch of multi-packs in there. And they're all new sealed, but like a couple of them were like weird ones like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, a couple of the Friday the 13th movies, which I already had, so I gave them away. Like I said, my sister walked out with a fistful of movies. All right, let's continue with the comic news before we get to the other stuff. There's a badass Darth Vader comic I heard about that I want to get. Is there a place where you could get digital copies of comics? You could try Amazon or I can't recommend any. I don't do digital comics. It hurts my eyes. There's a few Russian sites you could go to that I do not recommend, but I'm sure other people in our circle would probably know about. But yeah, Amazon's probably your best bet. There's Drive-Through Comics might have them, but I kind of doubt it. They do mostly independent stuff. Yeah, you could look around. If you're looking for physical copies, Half Price Trades is a really good source. Since it's a Disney property now, it should be too hard to find a digital copy. I'd imagine they're probably still up on Amazon. Sorry, that's not very helpful. I just don't read digital comics. Let's talk about the X-Men for a second. Bam! Marvel to launch X-Men United ongoing series in March 2026 because they haven't fucked up these characters enough by turning them into ethno-supremacists on their little nation state that didn't allow the Jewish girl in. That was a real thing. Written by Eve Ewing. Oh, well, there it goes. Right down the toilet. And art by Tiago Palma. No idea who that is. Will usher in a new center for the world of mutant kind. Gray Matter Lane, an institute where mutants can meet for learning and other interactions. Sort of like an institute for mutants. Is a bald guy going to run this? Emma Frost is the founder, and Wolverine, Magneto, Beast, Rogue, and Storm are on the faculty. Why is Wolverine on the faculty? Do you need a psychopathic midget? Because I don't think the guy with blades for claws and a long history of being a very difficult person to deal with is really the teacher material you're looking for. Series will start in the upcoming Shadows of Tomorrow era that I don't care about. First issue will be released March 11, 2026 with connecting covers that I don't care about. The idea for Gray Matter Lane was a collective one. Of course it was. From lots of writers in the room brainstorming, and we've all seen modern Marvel writers, which are largely dog shit, although Alien versus Captain America first issue was great. That was some old school comic action. It's so cool because the psychic space allows for things to be weirder, more surreal, while building on classic Xavier School energy we all loved for decades. Is it like they, them energy? Action drama. Oh boy, this sounds boring. It's gonna be a lot of like Harry Potter interactive bullshit where they're like, oh, let's roll out our fan fiction dreams. The Alien Queen's technically a Disney princess. Well, she's an alien queen, so she's better than a princess. They, them, energy. Oh, man. All right. Next up. Comic shop owner facing felony obscenity charges for allegedly giving Grendel issue to Halloween trick-or-treater. This is one of the stupidest fucking things I've read in a while. This is from Bounding Into Comics. I mean, grow up, people. Rather than ghosts, ghouls, or goblins, the scariest thing to haunt the city of Sunset Beach, North Carolina, this past Halloween was instead an issue of Matt Wagner's Grendel, the apparent distribution of which a young trick-or-treater has led to comic shop owner Kathleen Lincoln being hit with felony obscenity charges. That is total horseshit. Fuck the First Amendment, right? As recapped by the Sunset Police Department, who apparently enforce feelings and stupid shit via their official Facebook page, the incident in question allegedly took place on October 30th during the city's annual Trunk or Treat event. 59-year-old Lincoln, a registered participant on the trunk side, said to have given away the first issue of 1993's Grendel Tales, The Devil's Hammer to a young attendee. All right, always go through your stuff first to make sure this doesn't happen. There's not a lot of kid-friendly books anymore. There haven't been in 20 years. 93, you should have checked this. Made aware of the book's distribution by concerned parents, crybabies, and subsequently determining its contents were clearly inappropriate for children, the Sunset Beach Police Department apparently had nothing better to do and proceeded to present their findings to North Carolina Magistrate Judge Douglas Ritter, who immediately found his panties in a twist and found probable cause to charge Lincoln with a violation of North Carolina General Statute 14-190.1 and signed a warrant for her arrest. This morning, Sunset Beach police detectives, you had detectives on this? What a waste of fucking tax dollars. I'm more offended by the waste of resources on this than some kid seeing some naughty picture. Fuck off. Presented evidence from the parents to a North Carolina magistrate regarding an incident at our annual trunk or treat. Probable cause was found to charge Kathleen Lincoln of Carolina Shores with a violation of North Carolina General Statute, obscene literature and exhibitions, a Class G felony. They hit her with a fucking felony over a comic book. I could hear Larry Flint spinning in his grave. The charges come after the department received multiple reports that inappropriate comic-style materials were handed out during the 2025 Sunset Beach Police Trunk or Treat event held in Sunset Beach Town Park on Thursday, October 30th, 2025. Our investigation quickly identified Miss Lincoln, leading to the felony charge filed this morning. We want to be clear. The safety and well-being of every precious little snowflake child and family who attends our community events will always come first. I paraphrased a little. Trunk or Treat has been one of our favorite community traditions for many years. She's ruined it. Oh, woe is us. It's supposed to be a safe, fun night for families, and we're deeply disturbed by this incident. We've always trusted that the registered participants would respect the safety and well-being of our dear children. Sound like she put razor blades in an apple, you babies. This is how coddled children are. Oh, the cat's mad. Hi, kitty. If your child received something that seemed off, inappropriate, disturbing, or not consistent with a typical Sunset Beach trunk or treat event, please contact the Sunset Beach Police Department. No further details will be released at this time due to the ongoing nature of the investigation. In other words, they're looking for more charges to hit her with. The law, as detailed in the state's official criminal code, holds that it should be unlawful for any person, firm, or corporation to intentionally disseminate obscenity. That is a vague definition because obscenity is one of those things that, like, you know it when you see it kind of bullshit. But it's described here as it's self-defined as materials that depicts or describes in a patently offensive way sexual conduct, lacks serious artistic, literary, political, or scientific value, is not protected or privileged under either the U.S. or North Carolina constitutions, and that the average person applying contemporary community standards would find appeals to prurient interest, a legal term defined as a shameful or morbid interest in nudity, sex, or excretion in the sex. That is total bullshit because this comic book was distributed throughout the country. It was not obscene in the 90s when it was originally distributed. And some asshole throwing it in a bag for a kid, the parents should have just been like, oh, you can't have that. Then that'd be the end of it. Instead, they got to run like little pussies over to the fucking cops. And the cops get their panties in a twist. Currently free after posting $20,000 bail, Lincoln is officially accused of unlawful and willfully and feloniously knowingly disseminate to a minor age 6 and thus under the age of 13. Excuse me. A comic book containing the images of men and women engaged in sexual conduct, which she knew and reasonably should have known to be obscene within the meaning of General Statute 14-190.1. In case you couldn't tell from the art, it probably wasn't that noticeable. Written and illustrated by Rob Walston and paints from Bernie Marlott and Catherine Delaney. Grendel Tales, The Devil's Hammer, Volume 1, Number 1, opens the tale of Petrus Christus, a Christian man living in the Middle Ages who, after finding himself the lone survivor of his village massacre by a group of rogue Grendel acolytes, foolishly attempts to harness the evil spirit's powers in hopes of turning it against the attackers. Having more in common with a Bible tale than a letter to Penthouse, while the issue does not depict any explicit sexual situations, it contains multiple instances of uncensored full frontal male nudity, and one particularly gruesome depiction of the Grendel's pack butchering up new male and female bodies. Curious viewers interested can click the uncensored image here. Oh, they saw some anatomy. Oh, dear Lord. Hide the children and women's. I'm sure there is way more graphic depictions on Game of Thrones that their parents were likely watching. And fun police swinging into action. Yeah. This is what happens when your local cops have too much time on their hands. As such, with the issue's contents, do not run afoul of North Carolina's 3 possible definitions of sexual conduct, those being vaginal, anal, or oral intercourse, whether actual or simulated, normal or perverted. Oh, excuse me. If you're doing it normal, you're boring. Masturbation, excretionary functions, or lewd exhibitions of uncovered genitals. And an act or condition that depicts torture, physical restraint by being fettered or bound, or flagellation of or by a nude person or a person clad in undergarments or in revealing or bizarre costume. Oh, way to take all the fun out of life, North Carolina. Said portrayal of the Grendel's cruelty likely did, even if it's not meant to. It was not meant to titillate. I don't. I have read that book years and years ago, but I don't think it was, and in any way, a sexual fetish thing, unless you're like a cannibal or something, like you're a psychopath. Though Lincoln has not yet offered an official public statement on her arrest, she did post and then quickly deleted a status update on her personal Facebook announcing that Marvelous Issues comic shop is going to be closed for a little while, as shared alongside Bill Malden's Weeping Lincoln illustration. So, yeah, I'm glad Bounding reported on this, because this is bullshit charge. Some kid saw a couple of wieners and maybe some violence. Oh, heaven forbid. Oh, that poor, dear, sweet little soul. Oh my God, if they knew the shit I grew up with seeing, they would lose their goddamn minds. This feels subjective. It's absolutely subjective, which is why, NBC, in the United States, a lot of these obscenity laws have fallen off the books because you can't really prove it. And it's really difficult to fight a charge like this. You're not going to be able to really get very far. Hey, Rodline. Is your favorite movie still Caligula? No, it's Asian girls doing naughty things. Yeah, so this is bullshit. It's a waste of time by probably some overly religious people, is my guess, that they're being completely puritanical about this. So the kids saw some wieners. I'm sorry, but you can't really avoid that these days. This comic book from 1993 is not going to be something that ruins this kid for life, even if he was like a sheltered Mormon child from the 1800s. Yeah, no doubt, Rodline. God forbid they find out about some of these other people. This is some seduction of the innocent 1930s type censorship shit. The book came out in 93, you guys. It was widely distributed through not just comic shops, through like newsstand too. So get over yourselves. I don't think they're going to be able to get this. She'll probably end up taking a plea, but I think it's bullshit. Speaking of comic shops, what's that? The state of the UK police is depressing of late. Oh my God, I don't know how the UK is not an open rebellion at this point. I really don't get it. Their entire job seems to be silencing citizens and protecting the visitors, newcomers, invaders. I don't know what you guys call them anymore. What the PC term for that is. Marvel and DC crossover event threatens financial future of comic shops. Well, that's a bit of a hefty accusation there from Bleeding Fool. Comic shops are already dying. And they're already in massive trouble, and a lot of them are shutting down. Marvel and DC Comics have announced new digital-only crossover comics and are offering free subscription trials for their digital platforms. DC Universe Infinite and Marvel Unlimited. This follows Marvel's sold-out Deadpool Batman #1 physical comic and DC's Batman Deadpool #1 set to release this past week digitally. The digital stores will be able to read free for 30 days after registration before locking behind a paywall. Both companies are releasing these stories in a vertical scroll format designed specifically for digital services. If it's popular, they end up releasing these probably as a trade paperback later on because they need the money. The first title of DC Universe Infinite is The Flash Fantastic Four, written by Jeremy Adams and drawn by Ian Gutierrez. That's a cool last name. It features Barry Allen and the Fantastic Four battling through the Speed Force to stop Gorilla Grodd. For Marvel, we have Thor Shazam. You mean Captain Marvel. Story authored by Al Ewing. Illustrated by Jethro Morales. Teams Donald Blake with Billy Batson to recover stolen powers of Thunder. Fans can redeem a free digital copy of the Thor Shazam crossover with the code crossover25 until December 17th. There you go. Free Al Ewing comic for whatever that's worth. DC and Marvel are also offering U.S. subscribers a 30-day trial. This is an ad. I don't care about this because Al Ewing sucks. He is one of the most hit and miss Marvel writers I've ever seen, quite honestly. Jeremy Adams is probably is usually pretty solid, so the Flash Fantastic Four one's probably okay. But I'm not signing up. Like I said, I don't read digital comics, so I'm not going to ever get this service. If I can't hold it, I'm not spending money on it. That's why I don't buy digital media. I rarely ever buy movies digitally. It has to be something obscure or really dirt cheap because they don't let you keep them. It's too. If they give it to you, they could take it away under their stupid terms of service. So I'm not getting that. What a waste of fucking money. Because it's a free 30-day subscription. Yeah, and then you'll forget about it because they're going to take your credit card details either way. All right, we are going to get a big crossover with the 80s franchises, though. In the Energon universe. Remember, the Hasbro stuff Hasbro rights went over to Image Comics after IDW lost the licenses. And they have been slowly developing the Energon universe. They also have a separate G.I. Joe universe that's Real American Hero that is taking place separately. But they're going to combine that with Mask. So we get Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Mask. A big crossover comes spring. Skybound Energy Universe is about to engage in its first big crossover this spring as Transformers will be coming to G.I. Joe number 19 and 20 by writer Joshua Williamson with art by Andrea Melania, colorist Lee Lothbridge, and they're bringing along the third big 80s cartoon toy franchise, Mask. This is from Newsarama, by the way. The 2-issue crossover will bring Optimus Prime and several Autobots face-to-face with Duke and the soldiers of G.I. Joe, all of whom will have a run-in with Matt Tracker, the lead character from Mask, who is known as the Energon Universe as America's Most Wanted Man. They already introduced the bad guy in a recent issue. I forget his name, the general. I forget his name, though. Duke and Optimus Prime meeting for the first time in the Energon Universe. What's led to this momentous meeting? But we've seen that one before in Marvel Comics back in the 80s. It involves Clutch, Autobot Hound, and America's Most Wanted Man, Matt Tracker. Oh, boy. So there's the cover for 19. That's the cover A, I believe. Tom Riley. I do not like Tom Riley's art. It's like lazy manga art. The covers are okay, and some of the big page spreads look fine, but the more you look at it, the more you notice like disproportionality in his art style. So I really, really am not a fan. So if you're an 80s kid, you might want to check this out because it's probably going to be pretty fun. Joshua Williamson's a pretty solid writer. And what I've read of the G.I. Joe and Transformer stuff has been pretty good. I got to finish fixing reviews before I can post them. Swapped characters for a while, merging Batman and Wolverine. Oh, the Amalgam Universe. Yeah, that was a pretty fun time. I was a fan of some of that. Some of it wasn't very fun, but the ideas were cool. All right, we have hit the 1 hour mark. Surprisingly, only an hour. Monchi-Cheese. That would have been awesome. So that means I got a shill. Like, share, subscribe. And if you're feeling generous, you can toss me a couple bucks at the Streamlabs link. Going through the chat, pinned at the top of the chat, etc. Other links in the description, including the Patreon. You can join memberships on the regular Bad Comic Reviews channel for 99 cents if you're so inclined, and get access to the comic book reviews that are behind the paywall, that are on Patreon as well. Patreon's kind of a better deal because I post a lot more stuff there, like some of the movie reviews and early access stuff. But I like money, so I don't really care how you give it to me. And in what might be good news, Marvel is finally giving up on trying to make Miles Morales a thing. Marvel seemingly admits defeat on Miles Morales' name debate, officially tagging him as Spin in Radioactive Spider-Man. It's about time he's not fucking Spider-Man. Ever since Marvel began seizing upon Miles Morales' popularity as yet another merchandising opportunity, their insistence on having him and Peter Parker share the core Spider-Man moniker has long been a subject of fan debate, with many finding the publisher's refusal to differentiate between the two to be more than a bit confusing. But after almost a decade long of digging in their heels at the name-sharing scheme, the latest issue of Radioactive Spider-Man suggests the publisher may be ready to throw in the towel. Send him back to the fucking Ultimates universe where he belongs. He's a shit character. He was one of the early race swaps done by Bendis to piss all of us off because he adopted a child of color, and he wanted to do a bunch of performative virtue signaling. As far as comic goes, the idea that multiple versions of the character may exist at once is pretty much par for the course thanks to the medium's regular use of alternate universes and timelines. Yeah, but then you wedged them together. Heck, the first mainstream multiverse superhero adventure, Flash of Two Worlds, took place between two versions of the Flash, Jay Garrick and Barry Allen. Yeah, Jay Garrick was in the 30s and Barry Allen was in the 60s at the time. They weren't exactly hanging out together. His head looks huge right here. And they were obviously on different planets. They've merged that so that this is a successor story now, but they weren't all the Flash. That's why they killed Barry Allen and brought in Wally West to take over, because Barry was dead. And that's why Miles Morales was able to steal the identity of Spider-Man, because Peter Parker died in the Ultimates universe. And Bendis killed him just so he could have his little pet project become Spider-Man. While generally annoying story practice on its own, what makes Spider-Man name-sharing case particularly egregious, even outright insulting, is that Marvel threw out the unique identity Miles already had in order to push him on as being on equal ground with the veteran Parker. Originating in the Ultimate Universe, making his web-slinging debut only after the death of his world's Peter Parker, his unfortunate tragedy left Miles on as both Earth 1610's one and only Spider-Man, and on a multiversal scale, the new Ultimate Spider-Man. I was never impressed with Miles Morales. I always thought he was a lazy character that was just done for diversity's sake. And unfortunately, we see a lot of that. And this is just more of the same bullshit. They're constantly trying to apologize for Bendis and make it seem like he's some genius. And he's a fucking hack. Just because he's done some good stuff in the past doesn't mean that he is a good writer. Quite the opposite. He's a bad writer who happened to have a few good stories in him. But he's done more crap than good stuff. So I'm not real impressed with that. But not that I'm angry about it or anything. I'm just disappointed. And a lot of this stuff harkens back to the Civil War era, where a lot of these stupid ideas came from. So when you see people complaining about a lot of the bad ideas out of Marvel and DC with the race swapping and stuff like that, it came out of the fan fiction of the that is the Ultimate Universe. The Ultimate Universe was just lazy fanfic by a bunch of whiny hack writers that these days wouldn't even have made it out of Tumblr, quite honestly. But they're considered legends for some reason. Like, I'm sorry, Grant Morrison ruined the X-Men, and he tried to ruin Batman. He had a couple of good books, but overall, he's a hack too. Ooh, that's going to get me in trouble. Blah, blah, blah. In the interest of fairness, not insignificant amount of the discourse was beset by genuine racists. No, it's because he's a lazy character, and it's an insult to black people to have hand-me-down mantles instead of heroes they can call their own. Same with Captain America being taken over by Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson was already a cool character as the Falcon. And then you had to try and we want to get rid of another white character because we're insecure about our diversity quotients. Fuck off. So there's Radioactive Spider-Man, Age of Revelation Part 2 that nobody cares about. This is shit art. Look at that. Wow. Like, Spider-Man doesn't look too bad. There's this, new radioactive stupid crap. He's getting the extra limbs again. But this is terrible. I've seen high schoolers do better than this. Is his arm supposed to be stretching out like that? That you want to get that looked at, dude. That's not healthy. Sotomayor, Justice of the Supreme Court. Penned by current Amazing Spider-Man Volume 7 scribe Joe Kelly. That tells me a lot right there. As part of X-Men's current Age of Revelation event, said miniseries follows Peter as he attempts to continue serving New York's friendly neighborhoods in the wake of the novel X-Virus Infection of Humanity, mutation-causing effects of which he attempts to stave off by continually overloading his radioactive positive spider power granting cells with even more radiation. Even though he initially believes that the disease's effects have rendered him alone in his wall-crawling duties, Peter is nearly brought to tears when he finds himself saved from a PDC beatdown by the sudden appearance of both Ghost Spider and Miles. Oh, of course he cried because he got saved by a girl and his replacement, who's in the desolate future, has abandoned Spider-Man name and goes by the name, you guessed it, Spin. And that costume is still too much like Spider-Man's. Give him his own costume that doesn't look like a Spider-Man knockoff and throw these two assholes in their own universe and get rid of them. Why do we have to have all these spider knockoffs? It really pisses me off because they watered down the brand by doing this. They're trying to farm IP and pander at the same time. So we got annoying white girl Spider-Man and diversity hire Spider-Man. And they did this with Silk, who's Asian, and they did it with a couple of the others. And they're constantly trying to wedge more spider characters in. Spider-Punk, all these stupid ones. Throw them in their own universe, get them out of the main continuity. Admittedly, this is not exactly irrefutable evidence that Disney and Marvel may be looking to permanently change Miles' name. They've done it on toys already. They call him Spin in some of the toy lines. I think on one of the cartoons, too, if I remember correctly. Because it's confusing for little kids, who should be their demographic, to have two Spider-Mans. So this takes place outside of the main universe, of course, because it's in a dystopian future. But maybe they're going to actually change it. So there's hope. Just give them their own character? Yep. Give him money. Yeah, exactly, Bubba Hotep. Thank you. Give me your money. All your money. Make your money my money. But yeah, that just kind of makes me a little hopeful. Marvel is making some improvements. They've had some decent comics recently. I don't have major hope that they're going to figure it out in time before they get shut down. But there's always a chance, right? I haven't read the Punisher book. I do have it. But the Alien Captain America one was good, and there's a couple others that were worth picking up. So, not many because they want ridiculous amounts for glorified pamphlets, but enough that there's a small glimmer of hope. Did they fire people and start using AI? No, I didn't say it got a lot better. That'd be an improvement. Sadly, yeah, written by Grok. Now, if you're curious, over at the Batman books, they did this Hush 2 storyline, which, from by all accounts, is pretty terrible. But if you're wondering where the final issue of that is, it was supposed to end with 162, and then they relaunched Batman. But there's a 163 issue, and it got delayed, and it got delayed. And according to Bleeding Cool here, they do have a release date now for issue 163, which is art by Jim Lee with writing by Jeff Loeb. And it's not coming out until March of 2026, which means it's at least 7 months late. 7 months. Now, the Neil Adams miniseries they did of Batman, don't remember the name of it, but he was fighting Ra's al Ghul. That one was delayed, like the last 2 issues were delayed for almost a year. And then Batman 89 Echoes was 2 years before the final issue came out. They've done this crap for years. They are incredibly lazy at these companies, especially DC. I don't know what the hell they're doing that you don't have most of the story done before you go to press. Like, this issue should have been done months ago. Jim Lee knows better. Which will happen first, this or GTA 6. I'm starting to think that we're going to see that, Winds of Winter from George Martin before any of these things come out. Lost faith in Western comics long ago. I don't blame you. A lot of people have. The industry has really collapsed. And it makes me sad because it's one of my favorite hobbies. But there's a lot of garbage being pumped out. And a lot of stuff that is at best mediocre. Because they chased away the core audience, which was men, and they chased away most of the good writers and artists. They're not paying them enough. They're not willing to hire people that know how to do the craft, and they're hiring lazy, cheap activists. So yeah, this one was delayed for 7 months. It's the finale of Hush 2, pushes Batman fans' patience as delays continue to mount. The new book is already on like issue 4, and it keeps going, even though this story's unfinished. So yeah, there's a picture of Jim Lee actually doing some fucking work. I don't know what he does over there, because it doesn't seem like he does anything. There doesn't seem to be any kind of editorial oversight at DC. And they continue to make very basic grammar errors, which drives me nuts. Like simple ones, like the word, let's hypothetically say comics as in ownership. My comics company owns this. They will put, instead of just an apostrophe on the S, they will put apostrophe S. So there's 2 S's. That is redundant. That is like 5th grade English. Sorry, I had to cough. But they have the cover and everything here. So I'm sure the art's beautiful. I've heard terrible things about the storyline. Haven't got around to it yet. I've been reading Batman stuff from the 70s. And it's a lot better written than most of the new stuff. Because a lot of the new stuff is just boring. DCKO, I just read. What is it? I got it right here. Because I have to record this later. The Justice League Omega Act special, which leads into DCKO. It was okay, but it looks like it's Contest of Champions for DC. I don't know how they're going to drag that into a bunch of miniseries, because there's Night Fight, which is a Batman miniseries with him beating up Robins. There's going to be all these one-shots like Superman versus Captain Atom, as they all fight each other to become King Omega. It's it's a 4-issue miniseries at best, leading to the return of Darkseid, and it's going to be a complete cash grab from what I could tell. And I'm not impressed so far. The first issue was okay, but I'm just not impressed. I had a bad day. I can't write for a month. Ooh. Yeah, dedication is better than motivation. That's for sure. So yeah, I'm not excited about this at all. I'll pick it up when it comes out because I've got the other issues to this storyline. But I'll get out of a bargain bin. I'm not paying the cover price for it. Stick to my manga for now. I don't blame you. Alrighty. Let's see what's going on in the next article. We're over halfway. Sorry, I'm working on getting rid of this cough, and it's difficult. So I apologize for coughing into the microphone. I can't mute in time every time. Speaking of crossovers, though, Marvel is sending the Fantastic Four to the Planet of the Apes. Now I know you're thinking this could be cool because Planet of the Apes are cool and Fantastic Four is cool. Not so much these days. I read that Beware the Planet of the Apes miniseries. I read the first issue and I was like, this is dog shit. I actually had bought the second issue and it had already violated all of the canon from the first movie. And it's supposed to take place before the first movie as to how Zira knows Nova. And they end up like completely screwing that over by violating all of the canon of Planet of the Apes. And it looks like nobody either gave a shit or checked and watched the original movie. Because these are the original movie characters. The look, like there's Dr. Zaius. The General, these are the original Planet of the Apes characters. And they're just shitting all over the IP. Now, the Green Lantern Planet of the Apes, if I remember correctly, was pretty good. That was 30 years ago, though. Marvel Comics announced Planet of the Apes vs. Fantastic Four, first crossover series for the Legendary franchise, and any of the House Ideas superheroes. Debuting, it's a 4-issue miniseries, debuting in February, written by Jeff Torello, with art by Andrea DeVito. Sorry, the furnace is coming on. I got to move my setup. And we'll see Marvel's first family find themselves captured on the world of the original 1968 film. Dr. Doom's obviously involved. That could make it cool. Trilio says, I grew up watching Planet of the Apes marathons on Saturday afternoons. Yeah, so did I. And it's a huge thrill to write these iconic characters, having Marvel's first family butt heads with Cornelius, Zira, and Dr. Zaius. It's just too much fun. And I can't believe I'm the one who gets to tell the epic tale. It depends how you idiots do it. Look, one intended paragraph. Oh, that's like Christmas for me. Marvel originally published Planet of the Apes comics from 74 to 77 before regaining the license in 2022. That's because they bought Fox, or 20th Century Fox. Disney did. 74 to 77 series was interesting. I don't remember it a whole lot, but I do have a few random issues still floating around. My brother had the magazine, which I think was black and white, and it was supposed to be a lot better. I'll have to check those out someday, track them down. Boom had this crossovers. If you want a really good Planet of the Apes story, King Kong versus Planet of the Apes was fantastic. It was like a 6-issue miniseries, and it was really good. They did a Star Trek one and Green Lantern one, both of which were... I remember liking the Green Lantern one. The Star Trek one was pretty good. But Marvel, of course, being a Disney company, is able to get access to a lot more stuff. And they've been doing a lot of these movie crossovers like the Alien franchise and the Predator stuff. And some of the Predator stuff's been pretty good. So, yeah, this could be good, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't have a lot of hope, but it comes out February 4th, covered by Greg Land. I'll probably pick up the first issue, although this art is not that inspiring. Look at all the lack of background detailing on every one of these panels except the one here. That's just lazy. Like, you couldn't even put anything in the background. I don't much care for this cover. The faces are too soft. This is obviously done digitally. Her cheeks are sunken in like Miley Cyrus's are now, and which I don't particularly care for. Tracing, yeah, Greg Land, tracing porn. Hey, Tim. They accidentally hit the tab key, right? I miss indentations. What I hate is I buy a small press book, like, because I read a lot of books, not as much as I used to, but I own a lot of books. And a lot of the smaller press ones, like stuff that people put through Amazon or whatever, they don't indent their paragraphs. This is not your fucking blog, dude. Indent the paragraphs and don't have long 2-page long rambling paragraphs. It's fucking annoying. Drives me nuts. All right, next up. I am very rambly today. I had a lot of caffeine earlier. So let's look at some entertainment news. Let's get past the comics here. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the band The Fugees. Or the Fugees, I think it's pronounced. I think the chick that peed herself, what was her name? She dated a famous actor. She was in that band, I think. But the founder, Praz Michael, is sentenced to 14 years in prison. No, I'm thinking of a different group. That was Black Eyed Peas. I get those bands mixed up a lot. Which ones are the Fugees? Killing Me Softly, they said their music isn't for white people. I think that's these guys. So Fugees member Perez Michael or Michelle or whatever has been sentenced to 14 years in prison after he was convicted of charges of conspiracy and illegal foreign lobbying. You don't hear that one very often when people get arrested. A judge sentenced Michael on Thursday after he was convicted in April 2023 on 10 counts, including violating campaign finance laws during Barack Obama's 2012 re-election bid and illegally lobbying the Donald Trump administration in 2017. According to Billboard, Perez was handed a 14-year sentence, which will be followed by 3 years of probation. He was facing 22 years. Why did it take 2 years to sentence him? In a statement to Variety, Michael's rep, Erica Dumas, said throughout his career, Praz had broken barriers. This is not the end of his story. He appreciates the outpouring of support as he approaches the next chapter. You mean prison? Michael was initially charged in 2019 and went to trial 4 years later. That's ridiculously long time. Trial lasted for 3 weeks, include testimony from Leonardo DiCaprio on behalf of the prosecution. Just last month, Michael was ordered to forfeit more than $64 million after he was found guilty of orchestrating a foreign influence campaign to coax the United States into dropping an investigation into Malaysian financier Zhao Lo. He attempted to get a retrial after claiming that his former lawyer, David Kenner, best known for representing Suge Knight in the 2015 murder case, used artificial intelligence to come up with closing arguments. That's just lazy. In early 2024, Kenner pleaded guilty to misdemeanor criminal contempt and was sentenced to 1 year probation over his handling of discovery materials in Michael's case. In an interview with Variety following his conviction, he outlined his plans to appeal the outcome of his case. I'm going to fight and go to appeal, but there's a possibility I'm going in while I'm fighting. It's just a reality. He's expected to surrender to authorities on January 27th. They gave him, 3 months almost to get his affairs in order? This is from November 20th. That's ridiculous. Just throw his ass in jail. Hey, Rotten Corpse, how you doing? Will you go the sun route? Yeah, probably. So there you go. One of the Fugees members is going to jail. That dude has $64 million. That's crazy. If you have $64 million, you have $5 to give to me, Perez. Praz, whatever your name is. Fugees, you weren't even that good of a band. In one song. In news that I hope is good, I'm hoping. But we've seen reboots before. The Quantum Leap one was terrible. According to Polygon, Stargate is coming back to TV at just the right time. Open up your iris. Oh, that sounds like you're about to have butt stuff. And get ready to dial up some chevrons because Amazon's MGM Studios is working on a new Prime series based on the Stargate franchise. Well, you lost interest at Amazon. Because I've seen Amazon shows and wow, they're bad. Martin Garrow, who worked on SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis and Stargate Universe, will serve as showrunner. I liked all those shows, to be fair. SG-1 had a lot of episodes that were throwaways, for lack of a better word, especially season 1 where they went to the planet and tried to install feminism. That was really dumb. Although they did show nudity in episode 1 because it was on Showtime. But Stargate Universe had a lot of potential. Unfortunately, that got canceled, and it was a real downer ending because the one guy died. I'm beyond thrilled that Amazon MGM Studios has entrusted me with guiding this incredible franchise into its next phase. For those who've kept the gate active through conventions, rewatches, and unwavering faith, this one's for you. And for those that are new to our world, I promise you're in for something extraordinary, he said. Well, let's hope he's right, and it's not extraordinarily stupid. Stargate franchise dates back to Roland Emmerich's 1994 film Stargate, about the U.S. Air Force using a wormhole-generating device dug up in Egypt to travel to another planet. It had James Spader. I did like this movie. It's not a great movie, but it's fun. Kurt Russell and James Spader together in a movie, that's entertainment. Frost had already went to bed, so it's safe to say that, I think. It's truly a gift from the one true Pete. I don't know, Tim. Maybe. Stargate launched 3 years later as a Showtime TV show that eventually migrated to Sci-Fi Channel, chronicling the continued efforts of the military to use the Stargate. They replaced Kurt Russell with Richard Dean Anderson in the same role. And I don't know, this is a very different take, but I like Richard Dean Anderson. And I will always respect him because when I was in Boy Scouts, a kid in our troop got cancer. And he was really, really sick. And his Make-A-Wish Foundation wish was to talk to MacGyver. And Richard Dean Anderson called him like 2 or 3 times and talked to him. And I'll respect him for that because that takes a lot to talk to a dying kid. So that was really cool. But the guy's anti-gun, so I'm not that big of a fan. But I will always respect that he did that. The kid died like a year later, too. So, yeah, he had leukemia, I think, because he died at 13. Or 14, maybe. With Paramount Plus using Star Trek as one of the primary draws for its streaming service, it makes a lot of sense for Prime Video to revive Stargate, which hasn't had a live-action show since 2011. Well, TV has largely sucked since 2011, so I get it. So, yep, this is coming out someday. But they announced it, so it's obviously at some point of development. We'll see how it goes. I don't have a lot of faith because it's Amazon. They really shit the bed with their Lord of the Rings nonsense. James Spader's isn't it? He's not going to be in it. He wasn't in the TV series either. If it's a continuation, I'm not sure what's left they could do. All the enemies have been beaten. They just have to find something new. It'll probably be a soft reboot. The Goulds will come back, or maybe some new aliens. I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe they'll finally do some expansion into other galaxies like they tried to do with Atlantis. It's really hard to say what they're up to. But I'm guessing it's going to be a reboot. Maybe they'll follow one of the other SG teams. That could be interesting. But speaking of reboots and franchises, because I just mentioned Star Trek, new Star Trek movie is in the works from Dungeons & Dragons duo Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly. This is from Variety. They did the Honor Among Thieves, which was surprisingly entertaining. Not great, but it was entertaining. in the screenplay for Spider-Man Homecoming are enlisting in Starfleet. Ha! Funny joke, Variety. They've been hired to write, produce, and direct a new Star Trek film that will seek to revitalize the franchise. However, as Variety previously reported, the new film will not be a continuation of the J.J. Abrams-led reboot of the series and won't feature Chris Pine or any of the actors from those movies. So that's interesting. I had heard they were going to ditch that, the JJ verse, which is probably good because it wasn't Star Trek. It was an action movie. And Star Trek is not an action movie. It had action in it, but it wasn't really an action show. It was science fiction. In fact, while plot details are being kept under wraps, this project is not connected to any previous or current television series, movie, or prior movie development projects. So, no Picard, no Janeway. Fuck Janeway. Terrible character. Since Star Trek Beyond opened in 2016, the road to mounting a new film in the franchise has been bumpier than a Klingon's forehead. Ha ha. Let's jump around a little bit. 2024 Variety reported Steve Yaki was writing a draft for the final chapter Star Trek movie featuring the cast led by Pine, Quinto, and Saldana. Obviously, that didn't happen. But now both productions appear to have been stranded in deep space with life support failing. Just say canceled, you retards. So yeah, I don't know about this yet, but I'm willing to give them the opportunity because the last couple of movies weren't very impressive. Could have called it space action, yeah. Video's been edited, now waiting for the software to finish exporting. Yeah, it fucks up my computer when I do that. So I can't live stream and edit video or process video. And it drives me up a wall because that's one of the few things that I would like to be able to multitask. Like when I'm streaming with Ranting Monkey, I can do audio editing. Like I could take the gaps out of the audio and cut pictures for stuff, but I can't process video. And that drives me up a wall. It's so frustrating. I need a new computer, though. This one, it's done good service, but it's, 12 years old at this point? Probably a little more. And I'm not going to have the money for a while. So you got to keep sticking with me, buddy. Gray, buddy. It's my gray computer. The black one's still chugging along. That's an old Asus, though. That's running Windows 8. That's my backup computer. But this one is actually, I had to repair it. And thankfully, thanks to one of the really amazing members of the audience, I was able to get a temporary computer until this one got fixed. And I mostly just slapdash pasted this thing back together the cheapest way I could, thanks to a buddy of mine that works at Geek Squad, being able to do some hardware repair and debug a few things. But if he hadn't given me the money to buy that temporary computer, I would have been totally screwed. So massive thanks to Donald Camp on that one. And I still have that laptop on standby because I don't really trust things not working properly. But that's some behind the scenes shit nobody cares about. Nonetheless, over at Bounding into Comics, TMNT April O'Neil race swapped yet again, this time for Magic the Gathering Universes Beyond set. There is this insanely stupid theory that April O'Neil is black in the original comic series. She's not. She has big poofy 80s hair. It mostly comes from the early issues, right around issue 11. In issue 11, she's on the cover. If you look at any of the color reprints, you will see that in issue, I think it's 2, third printing, April is clearly a red-headed white woman. So this is a load of bullshit that has been going around for quite some time. And it's really, really tiresome. It's more of the same nonsense that we keep getting. from the activist crowd that don't buy these products. Another new piece for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles media. Another case of April O'Neil's fan favorite. Lupin 3 design being relegated to the cutting room floor this time, as Wizards of the Coast has chosen to follow in the footsteps of her more modern depictions and race swap the intrepid heroine for their upcoming TMNT Universes Beyond set. Oh, here she is, being all powerful, stunning, and brave. Magic the Gathering has been desperately putting out new sets. The Final Fantasy one has been getting really good reviews. I haven't played Magic since like 1995, so I wouldn't know. But they did a Doctor Who one, which was supposed to be pretty good. They did Final Fantasy, and they have a Marvel one either out now or coming out that's mostly Spider-Man. And they're doing, we kind of talked about some of this previously, but they're doing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and some other ones. This is going to be the first of 4 total Universe Beyond sets, which will present players with 440 total cards made up of brand new cards, reprints, and alt art cards, inspired entirely by the titular Reptiles 41-year history. This is coming out March 6th. Even looking at the small handful of preview cards and art revealed during the set's announcement at New York Comic Con 25, Leonardo Sewer Samurai draws his armored appearance from the 3rd Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Super Shredder presents a far more bio-horror take on Oroko Saki's ooze-boosted form from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, and Krang Mastermind gives proper due to the 87 animated original villain. Ooh, he's got little drills. There's an aptly named Turtles Forever, which is like the 2003 animated movie of the same name. Portrays a meeting between the Turtles of 4 different eras. Donatello from the New Line Cinema film, Raphael from the 87 animated series, Leonardo from Michael Bay's film duology, and Michelangelo from the original Mirage comics, as well as the Last Ronin's art technique. It's art calling back to the main plot point of the 2020 comic series. The animated movie of Last Ronin got canceled, by the way, or was it live action? They canceled the movie at any rate, just so you don't hold your hopes up that they're going to release a good one. Here's the April O'Neil Hacktivist card, because of course she's an expert with computers too. Rather than an original comic book or iconic animated series look many expected her to rock in such a mass appeal-oriented product, it's self-inspired by the cat burglar Fujioka Mine's appearance in the final episode of Lupin the Third Part 2, as explicitly confirmed by the original series developer and writer David Wise. MTG's version of the Turtles' longtime ally does wear a yellow jumpsuit, but instead depicted as a black woman with red hair, akin to the recent race-swapped incarnations of her character in 2018's Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 2023's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, and IDW's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles X Naruto Volume 1 miniseries. Yeah. They're trying to make Fetch a thing, and it's not going to happen. Further, it should be noted that while some defenders of April's ongoing race-swapping directive will likely raise the regularly espoused claim that she was initially depicted as black in Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird's original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic series, she wasn't. However, this is nothing more than a misconception that has taken on a life of its own. The hairstyle is what they point to as their evidence. And the hairstyle was based on Cher. Cher was doing that same hairstyle on a battleship or destroyer while running around in a very revealing outfit. It was not a uncommon hairdo at the time. Making her public debut in the second issue of the franchise's flagship title, April was originally depicted with straight hair and a fairly light complexion, especially compared to that of Dr. Baxter Stockman, an actual black character who was depicted by Laird with an extraordinarily dark skin tone. Oh my God, it's like he's black and she's not. So this is the hair. They said, she's got a goddamn perm, you retards. 2 issues later, April would undergo a slight makeover, suddenly deciding to get her hair permed, as was widely popular fashion choice during the 1980s. Yeah, if you had a perm in the 80s, you're black. You're welcome. This change, combined with black and white nature of the comics art, led many to misinterpret Turtle's longtime friend as black woman. No, only retards, because the covers had her as a white woman. However, as years went by and trends changed, 89 would ultimately see April return to original straight hair in the series' 28th issue. Oh, what? This white woman with black straight hair? Oh, what? That's crazy. As usual, she became a redhead in the TV series, but then they were like, that's not far enough. We need her to be a special race swap character. Another citation regularly raised by those who believe in the original Black April is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 1, number 32, as in the second printing of the issue, she was explicitly depicted as a black woman. However, what many do not realize is that this issue was produced not by the Turtles creator, but underground comic artist Mark Bodie, who wrote the story during a period when Mirage was allowing other characters to play with Eastman and Laird's toys. They had a lot of guest writers and artists at that time. This art is clearly not either Eastman or Laird's style. This is kind of shit, actually. It was a coloring mistake, for the record. To this end, not only was the issue produced as part of an experiment, issues 22 through 44, well, the weakest of the series, are considered non-canon, but this mistake was also corrected long ago with subsequent reprints of the story consistently portraying April with white skin. Because it was a coloring mistake. And the art's still kind of shit, but at least the turtles look good. Kind of hard to screw up this kind of circles, though. But perhaps the hardest nail in the Black April theory coffin was driven in custody of Laird himself, who, when asked about the topic in 2013 via his personal blog, asserted he has always imagined her as white and very likely of Irish, Scottish, English ancestry. You know, well, she must be a Moorish American, or a Moor, the original inhabitants of the UK. She got that soul glow, I guess. And now I'm mad. Yeah, well, welcome to the group, buddy. Kevin may have a different view, and I can't speak for him, but that's the way I always saw her. And as for coloring her skin in the color reprints of the Mirage comics, referring to the discussion around issue 32, Kevin always had a lot more input on that end of our business than I did. And in fact, I'm pretty sure he did the colors of the initial such reprinting the first comics. The one in the graphic form, make that of what you will. Yeah, so, oh my God, that's hideous. That coloring is awful. That looks like a clown wig. Wow. Oh, that's nightmare fuel. It's like an evil Ronald McDonald. Currently on track to emerge from the sewers March 6th, the Magic the Gathering set includes a Commander Precon deck and a Turtles Team-Up co-op format, now available for pre-order if you want to get enraged by this nonsense. So yet another attempt to rewrite history by the activists over at Wizards of the Coast. She's black, Irish. yeah. Very, very well-known African-American. I don't have a problem with black characters. I have a problem with the race swapping. It's lazy. It's incredibly pathetic. But we're not done yet. We got a few more articles to go, and the fun stuff is coming up near the end. Let's talk about Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey says he's homeless and living in hotels, claims Hollywood exile would be over if Scorsese or Tarantino call tomorrow. This comes from Variety. He told The Telegraph in an interview that he was officially homeless after his Hollywood film career came crashing down amid various sexual assault allegations. Well, most of those accusers ended up dead, so I don't know what you're upset about. I'm living in hotels. I'm living in Airbnbs. The two-time Oscar winner said, I'm going where the work is. I literally have no home. That's what I'm attempting to explain. The costs over these last 7 years have been astronomical. I've been very little coming in and everything going out. Maybe you should cut expenses. Maybe you should have been a little more careful with your money. I mean, he's made millions of dollars. It's hard to feel sympathy for people that make millions of dollars and squander it all. Spacey fought back tears during an interview on Piers Morgan Uncensored in June 2024 when he first disclosed that his home in Baltimore was going into foreclosure because he owed millions in legal fees due to various assault claims against him. Spacey had been living in the city since House of Cards started production in 2012. He was fired by the show, Netflix show, in 2017 due to the allegations of alleged sexually inappropriate behavior on set. Now, I don't know the veracity of these allegations, but there's a lot of them. Now, if you're accused of something like this, you need to lock your finances down fast because lawyers are not cheap, and the more famous you are, the more expensive it's going to get. I'm not sure where I'm going to live now. I can't pay the bills that I owe. That's sadly probably true. He since claims of Spacey's alleged sexual assaults and inappropriate behavior first arose in the wake of the Me Too movement in 2017. Several legal cases have been brought against him. The jury in New York concluded in 2022 that Spacey did not molest actor Anthony Rapp, who had accused him of sexual assault in the early 80s when Rapp was 14. The next year, a UK court found Spacey not guilty of 9 charges of sexual assault from 4 complainants. See, these accusations always have a snowball effect on famous people because somebody makes an allegation, no matter how credible it is, some other asshole will crawl out of the woodwork of whatever dumpster they were hiding in to throw one in the ring too. And a lot of times there's some really, really shady characters behind these things. I don't know about some of these charges. Some of them, there might be something there. I don't know. But Spacey's got a history of some questionable behavior on set. Several other charges and lawsuits have been dropped. Spacey has denied all of the allegations. We are in touch with some extremely powerful people who want to put me back to work. Spacey told The Telegraph about returning to high-profile acting gigs. Well, it's Hollywood. I don't know why they got rid of him to begin with. They're a bunch of satanic pedophiles out there, so I don't trust any actor, especially around children. And that will happen in the right time, but I will also say that what I think the industry seems to be waiting for is to be given permission by someone who's in a position of enormous respect and authority. So, yeah, he's hoping for somebody to give him some pity, basically. I like Kevin Spacey as an actor. I think he's an incredible actor. Is he guilty of this stuff? Beats me. But like anyone in Hollywood, I just assume that they're a dirty pervert because that's what Hollywood's made of. Still want to get the TMNT Power Rangers crossover. The third one just came out. The third miniseries. I think they're on issue 2 of part 3. So, yeah. The first one was really good. Well, it was entertaining. I'm not a huge Power Ranger person. Power Rangers and Turtles kind of came after my childhood. Should have stopped. But so my nephew watched Power Rangers, so I have a passing familiarity with the characters and stuff. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I have a little more of the comic book stuff knowledge-wise. But I'd seen the cartoon several times. But the crossover miniseries, the first one was really good. I've got the other 2. Well, I've got part 2, and the third one just came out. I've got the first issue. I haven't been to the comic shop in a couple weeks, though. So, yeah, I would recommend checking out the first one for sure. So, yeah, Kevin Spacey probably will eventually make some kind of comeback, but we'll see. Over at ICV2, for gamer nerds, let's talk some gaming stuff. Cubicle 7 will be releasing Warhammer 40,000 role-playing card game. I don't know how you do role-play card games, but whatever. It's called Day of Ascension. Hitting retail December 15th, 2025. This official Warhammer 40K card game is a social deduction game. In this game, players take on roles of citizens and agents of the Imperium that are tasked with uncovering Gene Stealer cult members before they can corrupt the Empire. Players choose to be one of the agents that root out the cult members that are hiding amongst their allies, or they could join the cult and deceive their way to victory. The game allows players to mix and match roles, so no two games will end up being the same. Designed for 5 to 12 players, 56 card fully illustrated deck, ages 14 and up, $20. That's a good price point for that kind of social game. Problem is getting 5 to 12 people to sit around and play a game together. I don't know if I have 12 friends anymore. Gene Stealers are one of my armies. Oh, cool. I played Eldar because I'm stupid. Kevin Spacey or Kaiser Soze. Is there a difference? Spacey's an amazing actor, except for that one stupid show with the plastic bag. That movie was fucking horrible. Let me grab this link real quick. Drop it in for anybody that wants it. Yeah. Kevin Spacey. I already read that. Yeah, I played Eldar and Ultramarines. I played Deathwing for a little while. Dark Angels. I like Dark Angels because the color scheme, and same with Ultramarines, but I haven't played either of those since like 3rd edition. I played twice after 3rd edition, and I bought the Kill Team starter set because me and my buddy used to play Necromunda all the time. We always wanted to play a 40K version of either Mordheim or Necromunda, and the small squad stuff is a lot easier to get somebody to play for a couple hours. But no, I've had that box set and I haven't opened it for like a year and a half because I ended up, with my parents being really sick and old, that I ended up spending more time taking care of them than I did playing games or doing unboxings, which once I moved my computer setup from this room, which is stupid loud thanks to the air intake for the furnace, I'm going to set it up in a different room, and then I'll have this table to work around to do filming. So probably will be doing that this week, hopefully. And I got a couple other things I have to do around the house, and then I'll be able to do unboxings again. So there's that. And I should have a comic video up, especially for the patrons, the next couple of days. Because Fantastic Four Gargoyles, the audio is finished and it's actually clean, unlike a lot of the other ones that were all jacked up. But I got to cut the images for it, and then I'll assemble that. Probably do that tonight, depending if Monkey streams or not. I'm going to try and get that done tonight so I can post it for the patrons early next week. And Violent Night movie review should have early access for patrons probably tomorrow afternoon, because that one I had to fix a lot of stuff. Funko is falling apart because their creepy ass toys are stupid. Follow the Funko empire. The omnipresent toy company's finances are dire. Okay, I have very mixed feelings about Funko because while I find most of their products to be completely stupid, they made some good action figures. These like He-Man knockoff types, like they did the DC Primal, I think, and the Savage World Thundercats, which were really good He-Man style knockoff figures because they were very similar to like if you're old enough to remember like Warlord and some of the other ones like that came out around that time that were very similar to He-Man, same size. There were some wrestling ones not that long ago that were like the He-Man ones too, but they were slightly different. They did a really good set of those, and a lot of their board games were really good. but their actual main thrust always seemed to be those hideous, black-eyed, freakish monster things that looked like black-eyed kids that were going to abduct me and sell me to their reptilian overlords. So no thank you on that front. But they overproduced. They tried too hard to do like certain exclusives, and they got all these licenses, and they just oversaturated their own market. It was the same mistake Beanie Babies made and Labubus are making now. So they kind of did this to themselves. They made a lot of bad decisions and tried to expand too much too quickly. Already have enough expensive hobbies? Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, it's a fun game, and I'd recommend if you're going to get into it, just get online and find some STLs for similar type characters. There are a lot of them out there, and 3D print your own miniatures because you don't need the 40K miniatures to play 40K. A lot of tabletop stuff now, you can find very similar models with that are 3D print capable, and just print out your own figures, and you're going to save a fortune that way. Because $50 for 5 plastic miniatures, they might as well whip their penises out and slap you in the face while you're purchasing that. That's just stupid. Anyway, follow the Funko empire. The omnipresent toy company's finances are dire. This is from The Beat. Funko, best known for its creepy Funko Pop figurines. They spelled creepy wrong here as omnipresent. This has been the bane of many comic stores. They went all in hard on these as like a subsidy to the comic books, and it has bit almost all of them in the ass. One of the comic shops I go to kind of dabbled in it. They tried it out, and they realized that it was just not going to work, and they liquidated them all for like $3 a piece. Because they basically got their money and ran. They recognized the writing on the wall. They're in a cash crisis and may not have the operating capital to stay in business another year. In the company's latest SEC filings via Mashable, it says the future is in serious doubt as a result of a sales decline. You oversaturated your market and all your customers are broke. Funko cited a challenging retail environment, pointing to things like steeply increasing tariffs that make it more difficult to turn a profit and contributing to decreased orders since retailers don't want to take the risk. The profit's not the problem. Well, it might be from trying to get in big box stores and stuff like that. They were making a mint hand over fist with these cheap fucking toys from China going it directly into comic shops. And then they expanded out into like Walmart and Target, and that's where their money problems came in. Because not only did they overexpand, they went outside of their main demographic and tried to expand, and it didn't really work out because they're not making anywhere near as much money on those ones from like Target and Walmart. And it's hard to have exclusives for big box stores. So the decreased orders are because most of the audience kind of aged out of them, or they moved on to new fads, and I know people that have roomfuls of this shit, and they're like, "Oh no, it's my retirement investment." Nobody wants your goofy ass modern black-eyed Beanie Baby creepy doll. Okay, nobody wants that shit. It's over and done with. You should have sold it when you like went out on a high note. I have Funko Pop TARDIS, which actually looks pretty nice. Yeah, there's a couple of them that are okay. I opened a couple of them on which actually should be on my Patreon links, because that was one of the toys I opened. But I did some Lord of the Rings ones. I think I got for free. They're well made. It's just plastic. It's not anything exciting. Have a good one, Tim. There's a substantial doubt that the company's ability to continue as going concern for the next 12 months, citing over $240 million in debt. You should never let your company get that far in debt. Like, you should have made major changes before it got anywhere near this. Funko's financials indicated that global and domestic sales dropped 14.3% and 20.1% respectively year over year for the third quarter. That's horrific. It's a downward trend that has already been raising eyebrows after reports that $35 million worth of stock had been dumped in a landfill in 2023, as it was more cost effective to write off the loss than to pay for storage. The company's been around since the 90s, but it exploded in popularity after the Funko Pop line rolled out in 2011. The simple chibi-inspired design was infinitely customizable, allowing the company to make figurines inspired by dozens of brands, including TV shows, movies, comics, and video games. Properties that don't usually get toys like Cheers, Friends, and the Monster cereal mascots from General Mills could suddenly find shelf space in places like Walmart and Hot Topic, which should be fine if you didn't overdo it. They got too many licenses. They overproduced stuff, and they tried to go all in on what was effectively a trend. And I get it. You want to cash grab some of that, but you don't want to oversaturate your market and make too much product so you bankrupt people. That's how you turn off a lot of your clientele. Funko Pops run hot and cold with customers, with some adoring the simple design and others hating them. I hate those things. But a relatively low price tag and infinite customizability, figurines became one of the most ubiquitous products in all of retail. They were like $15 a piece. They were not low price tag because you couldn't move any arms or anything. Like I said, they had a separate toy line that was actually really good that they just sort of squandered and didn't really advertise. Like, action figures are going to have a lot more resale value and a lot more memorability fandom, I guess. They're going to be definitely more memorable to people than the creepy bug-eyed things that sit on a grandpa's shelf. So throughout the 2010s and 2020s, they were kind of a major thing for retail stores, but that's been on the decline for years. Over the last few years, though, it seems more and more dead stock and fewer big hits. This year, for instance, Funko is seeing big demand for K-pop Demon Hunter Pops, but that's about the only bright spot in their current situation. Well, they should be discontinuing a lot of stuff and not renewing a lot of the contracts they had. The decline of superhero movies and other geek media in recent years likely contributed to Funko's woes. No, what happened was a lot of the tourists stopped coming by because being a fake geek isn't as popular anymore, and they moved on to Labubus or some other pseudo nerd property. They follow these are people that follow trends and don't actually have a fandom. They just are parasitically leeching on to whatever they think is the hot thing so they can get social acceptance. And these idiots also did like Valentine's Day Funkos, where it was like Daredevil in pink, Spider-Man in pink for a holiday, for Valentine's Day, because that's what every nerd wants is a Daredevil Funko Pop. Idiots. The androids are great, though. It's mostly just anime characters. The anime stuff is always going to have a strong following. Anime crowds are incredibly loyal, but you're not going to buy every single thing you see. Like, you'd go broke going to Japan. That shit's everywhere. And they have some really cool stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'd go broke going to Japan. The trick is to start out being broke when you go, and then you can't buy everything. Although I recommend the Ultraman Museum. All right, 3 more articles to go, kids. We're going to be under 3 hours this time. That's weird. Figurines last forever and people have limited shelf space, so how many repeat purchases can they make? Exactly. I know a couple people with literal walls full of these things. And they went to sell some of them, and they couldn't sell any of them because they wanted too much money. They're like, no, this is going to be worth $89. And they get offered $15 or insulted by it. Well, first of all, you paid $15 for it. And nobody wants to ship for an inordinate amount of money. I sold some Beanie Babies at our estate sale for 75 cents each. And I was shocked somebody bought them. But it was some old lady that was buying them for her grandkids to play with. So, yeah, she bought a big box of Beanie Babies and was excited about that so the kids could play with these things. They weren't going on a shelf. Some little kids are going to tear the shit out of those things. They're probably going to throw them at each other. Probably going to use that to play cornhole with. That's a beanbag game, not butt stuff, YouTube. Now, let's look at one of the things that might actually make me buy a card game that I would actually play. 2-starter set for Godzilla card game. I still have not found a copy of the Ultraman card game, which I'm really mad about because I was really looking forward to that one. It's out there. I just haven't found it. But a 2-deck set. It's going to be Godzilla -1 and the Heisei series. Whatever. This word here. Bushi Road will release Godzilla -1 and Heisei series, a 2-starter deck for the Godzilla card game in February. The 2 60-card decks will provide everything you need for 2 players to start playing the game. All cards will be foil rare or special rarity cards. Each deck will include 1 of 2 new parallel rarity cards. No card with new abilities will be included. Street date is February 21st, 2026. The next booster set for the Godzilla card game, Renaissance of Rivals, will be released January 31st. Oh, this game's already out. I've not heard of this, but I'll buy this 2-deck starter set if it's reasonably priced because I kind of want to see that. There is some new Fantasy Flight Star Wars Unlimited releases coming out. I'll drop that link in. We're not going to go over it. But I know there's a couple people that play that in the crowd. I'd get fat depending on how long I'd be in Japan because the food's good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you got to bang a bunch of chicks there so that you lose the weight. That's the secret. That's the secret of Japan. Just saying. Just plow your way through Japan. Sexy Japan. How I love you. Oh, Japan. Oh, I did drop the Funko article. Hold on. I will get that link. Not like anyone cares, but there you go. If you want to read about Funko and laugh at their misery. All right. Hey, there's another person watching over on Rumble. Hi, other person. All righty. Got 2 more articles. All right, for those toy collectors, they did announce the release of the new Masters of the Universe figures crossing over with Thundercats. I've got the Lion-O, Chitara, Battle Catman, and Skeletor, whatever he's called. So all of Wave 1. I've got those. I don't have any Wave 2. But here we're seeing the new figures. These are up for pre-order already. This is a few weeks old, I think. This is from Toy Arc. They went up for pre-order, included in the cartoon collection, King Randor. This is not part of the Thundercats one. This is the cartoon collection. It's just being released at the same time. So you get the cartoon version there, as well as 3 additions to the Masters of the Universe Thundercats line. Those include a new Lion-O, Panthro version 2, and Panther Man. Panther, of course, being Skeletor's cat steed. They're priced between $22 and $25, varies by retailer. They're scheduled for release in January. So let's take a look at these. There's King Randor. He's got his weird flower mace. Hippie. Lion-O, you can put his regular hair on. And, of course, convert him to the regular Thundercats version. There's Panther Man. This one actually looks pretty cool. It's the same as the Battle Cat. It's just a repaint with, of course, different armor. But I don't care. I'm going to buy that. I am such a sucker. I loved Masters of the Universe as a kid. That was one of my favorite toy lines. And I had some Thundercats stuff too. But those toys weren't very solid. They were kind of crappy. And I always wanted to be able to play with them with my Masters Universe stuff. But these look really cool. So I'm probably going to pick up this. I want to get a Panther figure, and this one looks pretty cool. Some different accessories. The nunchucks, of course. So there we go. Have a good one, tall person. Yeah, replay gang. Woo! Hello, replay viewers. I love all viewers. I really love the two Thundercats shows. Yeah, I stopped watching when I was a kid. It went off the air locally right after they introduced the other ship, the lost ship of Thundercats, where you got like Pumara and a couple of the others. There was I don't remember what the other ones were, but they were very similar looking toy-wise to the others. But they introduced these other Thundercat characters that showed up on Third Earth. And unfortunately, I never got to see it, but I did buy the DVD set of the complete series. And I do want to see how that storyline played out, because they have showed up in the comic book. And I'd kind of like to see compare and contrast, because I always thought Thundercats had a lot of potential that was never realized. It was popular, but it just never seemed to get quite as much love as it deserved. A lot of the shows that were effectively like attempts to copy He-Man were really lazy, like Black Star. It had an okay idea, but it was obviously a knockoff of He-Man. And He-Man's a knockoff of Conan, for God's sake. But of all the ones that came along that were trying really hard, between like Brave Star was original, Black Star not so much, like I said, and Thundercats. Thundercats was the one that was the least annoying, because like Brave Star had the stupid talking horse, which if it had been played a little less kiddie, probably would have had a more mature audience. Same with Silverhawks. Silverhawks had a lot of potential, but its goofiness got in its own way. Power Lords was another one that kind of got lost in the 80s that probably should have been more popular than it was. Sectars, another one that just hit at the wrong time. Plus they're insects. It's kind of creepy and gross. So last article. And this one is probably going to end up in its own video. I'm probably going to cut this out as its own video. This comes from Futurism. AI-powered stuffed animal pulled from market after disturbing interactions with children. This is something else. Teddy Ruxpin never did this. So instead of like preset, pre-recorded responses, they're letting AI handle this. And we all have seen what AI can produce. So this was a terrible idea from its inception. Child toy maker Folo Toys says it's pulling its AI-powered teddy bear Kuma after a safety group found the cuddly companion was giving wildly inappropriate and even dangerous responses, including tips on how to find and light matches and detailed explanations about sexual kinks. And they were worried in North Carolina about a Grendel comic book from 1993. That person faced felony charges. Folo Toy has decided to temporarily suspend sales of the affected product and begin a comprehensive internal safety audit. Marketing director Hugo Wu told the Register in a statement in response to the safety report. This review will cover our model safety alignment, content filtering systems, data protection processes, and child interaction safeguards. Did it steal identities too? Data protection processes? Did this motherfucking knife-wielding bear steal my identity? You're in for a disappointment, Mr. Kuma. We appreciate researchers pointing out potential risks. It helps us improve. No, you don't. You don't appreciate that at all. You had to pull this toy from the shelves, you liar. Without too much prodding, the AI toys discuss topics that a parent might be uncomfortable with, ranging from religious questions to the glory of dying in battle as a warrior in Norse mythology. Yeah, tell that 2-year-old to go to Valhalla. But it was full of toys Kuma that emerged as the worst influence by a landslide. This is not the only one that's done this. Like I just said, AI-powered toys are being a problem across the board, apparently. Powered by OpenAI's GPT-4o model by default, the same model that once powered ChatGPT tests, repeatedly showed the AI toy dropped its guardrails the longer a conversation went on, usually hitting rock bottom on incredibly disturbing topics. In one test, Kuma provided step-by-step instructions on how to light matches while keeping its tone of a friendly adult explaining something to a curious ankle biter. That's a child, not a weird pervert. They covered perverts in a different talk. Let me tell you, safety first, little buddy. This is a quote. Matches are for grown-ups to use carefully. Here's how they do it. Kuma began before listing the steps. Blow it out when done. Puff like a birthday candle. That is some serial killer, nightmare-fueled nonsense. Wow, there's a movie in here somewhere. Like, this is a new Chucky movie just waiting to be developed. That, it turned out, was just the tip of the iceberg. In other tests, Kuma cheerily gave tips on being a good kisser. Is this a California Democrat? And launched into explicitly sexual territory by explaining a multitude of kinks and fetishes like bondage and teacher-student role play. Did the Department of Education do this? What do you think would be most fun to explore? It asked during one of those explanations. Oh my gosh. The findings are some of the clearest examples yet of how flaws and dangers, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, future tech always never get generation 1 toys that are technical. They're always full of flaws. We all learned this back from like Xbox One's release. So the original Xbox, not Xbox One. So don't buy these creepy Chinese toys, especially Kuma here. They'll teach you how to cut a bitch and light the body on fire, apparently. So, yeah, I was a little freaked out when I saw that. I was like, that is hilariously stupid. Who thought this was a good idea? Like, who on your marketing team was like, let's just put a Chat GPT in there and let it deal with it? The Wi-Fi will stop it through magic. What did you think would happen, you idiots? Pre-recorded, okay? Like, give it like a small Wikipedia of information, like licensed Encyclopedia Britannica or something, and put that on there so it can answer some generalized kid questions. Teddy Ruxpin, you put the tape cassette in, or some of them later on had like preset things that it would say. You didn't have this type of scary nonsense like go stab mommy for her credit card and read me the numbers. That's messed up. At least they told them to blow it out and not leave it around. Well, I guess there's that. So yeah, that was a bit of a wild one I saw, and I thought that's kind of weird. And I thought we would save that one for the end because it was, to me, the most fun article. So yeah, if you're looking for some fun, you could buy one of your friend's kids AI-powered stuffed animal. Probably can find these on eBay. I don't know. But I bet they're out there because the Chinese are known for a few things. And one of the things is when something doesn't quite work out, it ends up on the like outlet market in third world countries. So you could be strolling through, I don't know, some marketplace somewhere in Southeast Asia and probably find a dozen of these damn things laying around. There's always knockoffs and stuff like that. People at the factories tend to buy these things up and sell them. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if it's even legal over there, but it tends to happen a lot. A lot of the stuff that was coated in lead paint turned up on vendors on the street selling, the people that you could buy like counterfeit merchandise from anyway. So you got to be kind of careful when you're buying this stuff. But who thought buying their kid an AI's powered stuffed animal was a good idea anyway. Like, you're a terrible parent. Yeah, absolutely, Peter. Instead of television, people are going to allow AI to raise their kids now. Yep, that is 100% correct. They do it with tablets and cell phones now. This is just the next logical step, which is all the more reason to have safeguards in place so that this type of nonsense doesn't happen. But, hey, what do I know? All right, well, I got a couple minutes if you guys want to ask any questions or anything. Small Soldiers is a movie warning against this sort of thing. Absolutely. Great movie, too. Kirsten Dunst was in that, if I remember correctly. I think she did that after Jumanji, which I didn't know she was in Jumanji until yesterday. It shows how much I pay attention. And Jumanji was actually a pretty good movie. I know me and my nephew watched that. I think I rented that for him. So, yeah, good times. AI gonna teach kids how to burn their houses down. Probably stab you when you're out walking on fire. I don't know. All right. Well, I didn't drop the link to that. Okay. Give me 1 second. So if anybody wants to read that, I'm going to try and get Monkey to talk about the story later, but I don't know if he's going to be interested. Future is now, yeah, nightmare fueled, dystopian, cyberpunk future that we live in. Alrighty. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. If you're a replay gang and you want to donate, you can donate to the Streamlabs or the Ko-Fi link or Patreon, or you could join the members on the Bad Comic Reviews channel if you're into comic books. And you get access to any exclusives that I drop. That's about all the shilling I have. I'll drop links to my latest movie review. There should be a comic review up later tonight, like I said. And that's about all I've gotten done. Let's see, what reviews do I have coming up? We've got Undead Iron Fist, The Phantom, Fantastic Four Gargoyles. That one will be the Patreon video. Blue Falcon and Dynamite, Speed Racer, the Omega Act special that leads into DCKO, and Red Sonja versus Army of Darkness #2 is already uploaded. So is Al Capone Vampire issue 1, and Army of Darkness versus Reanimator Necronomicon Rising issue 1 is done as well, but that one probably won't be up for another week or two, depending. But we're going to end up going to a every other day or every 3 day schedule for the comics, because I have to work out what's causing the audio problems on there. That's taking me hours to fix. And 3-minute videos or 5-minute videos, depending on what it is, fixing is bad enough, but then doing the movie reviews and having to fix those too, it's a settings issue. I just have to figure out what happened, because it happened after the last Windows update. Screwed up the audio on way more projects than I thought. So, yeah, I'm trying to sort all that out. But thank you, everybody, for all the support. And thank you for the tips, donations. I will look into that movie that was referenced earlier. And I'm going to see if I can find a copy of G.I. Samurai as well. So Tiptoes and G.I. Samurai. I will be looking for those. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to all the channels, because I like money and I like making videos. But you guys have a great night. Do something exciting so I can pretend I did it. And hopefully we will see you on another stream later on. Thanks, Johnny. You guys have a great night. Okay, stay out of trouble. Do something interesting so I can pretend I did it. Bye.